Well, hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Slow Flower Show. I'm Deborah Prinzing. Super happy today to be with two awesome guests and a topic that I've been immersed in since the start of Slow Flowers, and that is how do talented flower farmers sell their product to
Mhm.
creative florists. And we've got the right people who are here to talk to today. Return guest, Amelia Ihlo of Rooted Farmers. Hi, Amelia.
Hi, Deborah. Thanks so much for having us.
Oh, yeah. Thank you. And when we started talking about wanting to do another podcast and kind of dive into some of the features that you think are really important for farmers to know about, I said, well, who do you have who's really in the midst of this, who can kind of bring it to life? And you suggested Kelly Brown. So welcome, Kelly Brown. So good to see you.
Thank you.
And Kelly, I'm going to start with you because you're new to the podcast. So you are the owner of Do Right Flower Farm in the Santa Cruz area, but you're also the founder of the Santa Cruz Flower Collective. Is that the name? Correct name?
We call ourselves the Santa Cruz Flower Hub.
Got it. Okay.
Mhm.
So let's talk a little bit first about with Kelly, and then we'll move into the benefits of collective selling with Amelia and Kelly. And then we'll wrap up by looking at Santa Cruz Flower Hub, which it says right here on my notes. Sorry. Just kind of as a case study for, starting a hub and what you went through together to start partnering. So I love your website. I'm going to pop it up while we're talking, Kelly, in a second. But and I love Santa Cruz because I don't know, do you grow flowers year round? Are you almost a 12-month farm?
I'm almost. I mean, we sort of have to make an effort to not try to have much availability in December, January, so we can rest. So yeah,
Oh,
it
yeah,
is.
we don't hate you too much. That's pretty awesome. Tell us just briefly. You have a wonderful
Mhm.
story on your website about how Do Right Flower Farm started because you have a long
Mhm.
history in flower
Mhm.
farming, right? Or in farming.
Mhm. Yeah, so I got into farming in 2009. And prior to that, I had no experience as a farmer. I had like a spark from just like loving flowers in my mom's garden. My mom really taught me to notice plants. But at that time in the early 2000s, I was finishing college and I became a bike messenger. So I was like, had this life of working hard with my body outside, and I kind of couldn't imagine doing anything else. And then I needed, but I was very broke. And so I needed a second job. I started working at the farmer's market for this farm called Blue Heron Farms in Corralitos, which is in the south part of Santa Cruz County. And Blue Heron had this really incredible flower program. And my job at the farmer's market was selling their bouquets. And I just was like, totally taken by them,
I
and
love
they
it.
were, like, so nostalgic for the flowers in the garden, that I grew up with, and I had, like, never seen commercially produced flowers that looked that way, so it just kind of, like, sparked this, like, curiosity, and then I just got more and more obsessed, and I started working on the farm. I started, like, we were at that time, the farm was doing some weddings. I started working in the barn, doing some designing for weddings, and I just got more and more involved there and I worked there for 11 years, and the
Wow.
last 4 years, I was managing the flower production there, and during that time, I saw a huge growth in interest from florists, because it was kind of that, yeah, 2009, it was like it was kind of like the beginning of sort of Instagram, like, portrayals of flowers. I think it was really a really like special time of florists starting to like make an effort to seek out a different kind of product. And so in my time managing at Blue Heron, I put a lot of effort into creating some systems to get our flowers to florists because at that time we didn't have like Rooted or anything like specifically geared, like an online platform
Right.
specifically
No.
for flowers. And I
Yeah.
had looked into like Shopify or other things, but it was like I was like creating MailChimp emails with a million photos, and it was very manual.
Yeah.
And so then when I decided to leave Blue Heron and start Do Right, um, I knew in that transition that I was gearing Do Right towards florists explicitly instead of, because at Blue Heron we had this whole farmers market world as
Sure.
well. So I was
Sure.
kind of like, but I just saw all of this growth potential in selling to florists. And I thought, well, maybe this is even an opportunity to have a sustainable livelihood as a farmer.
Yeah.
So yeah, and that was actually like around the time when Gather Flora was starting, which at that time Gather Flora was more West Coast geared. So I got connected with Gather Flora, and so our first do right started in 2021 was our first growing season, and we immediately started selling through Gather Flora. And at that time, that was the first year that Gather had a stall at the San Francisco
Right.
Flower Mart. So we became one of their one of their largest producers. Like it was this crazy whirlwind of like, I'm starting a farm from scratch, and quickly there's huge demand for our flowers. We were super lucky.
Yeah.
And
No,
we
I
had,
mean, luck
yeah.
is part of it, but it's
Mhm.
obviously you had an amazing product. And I
Yeah.
remember, it's funny that you
Mhm.
talk about 2009, and that is really parallels with the origins of the slow flowers movement too, where
Mhm.
we didn't have this accessibility like we do
Mhm.
now with Pinterest and Instagram and all of these
Mhm.
digital tools. People just were still trying to figure out how to get my flowers in front of a florist. And
Mhm.
I've documented this in many stories where people were driving around
Mhm.
with their truck full of buckets going door to door. It sounds like did you ever have to do that, or because you were with Blue Heron, you
Mhm.
kind of had the relationships already?
Yeah, part of it too was that Blue Heron, because we had this network of farmers markets, including in the Bay Area, we were able to at least bring orders to the farmers market. So we already had some way to get flowers to the Bay Area, but also we had florists driving like 2 hours south to our farm from the Bay Area to pick up as well.
Right.
So
I mean,
yeah.
I think that still happens. Kelly, I'm
Mhm.
going to put up your, just so people can see the aesthetic of Do Right
Mhm.
Flowers, Do Right Flower Farm. I'm just going to put up on the screen, and maybe you can walk us through a little bit of, all the features that you're, kind of highlighting. I
Mhm.
love the name. Tell me about the name.
Oh yeah, the name actually came from Aretha Franklin from Do Right Woman. Aretha Franklin has just been a very like tender. It's like her music hold is this like very tender place for me. I grew up like, I remember Respect was, like, the whole
Yeah.
reason my mom taught me how to use the record player when I was, like, a teeny child, like, she, like, trusted me to carefully place the stylus because I, like, wanted to hear Respect over and over and over
Oh,
again. I think probably because there's, like, spelling involved, and for a child, you're like, you're like,
I love
"Spelling,
it.
I can do that."
Well, you
So,
have the quote right here, and I
yeah,
love that. I love that you've added
yeah.
that to your site so people can understand that, there's
Mhm,
a there's an influence in your values and how you
mhm.
want to move through the world. And anyway, thank you for
Yeah,
sharing that. And I
yeah,
love I just want to know
mhm,
the little you with the record player, because it sounds like
yeah,
you would have been a cool friend to hang out with.
yeah.
So you would you say that
Mhm,
you're very because you're selling to florists, you're coming to this as a with a farmer florist mindset? Are you doing
mhm.
design and
Yeah.
anymore?
Yeah, so I also do design because I have an art background, and I was like I have a very creative mind, so I definitely see the flowers also through the perspective of like how they look together, how to use them, noticing how they grow in the field, and thinking about ways to replicate that in a arrangement. And I'm really inspired by, other floral designers as well, and like just the kind of seeing the flowers through their eyes and what they're doing with the flowers. I think it's like a really rich relationship to be in. We sell to florists. We also we do like DIY buckets, do various size events, everything from like a la carte orders to full service orders. We do this year we're doing a farmers market. Um so yeah, also, and we're doing some more like wholesale to grocery stores. So we definitely are doing a lot of things right now. Maybe someday we'll kind of like whittle it down, but for now we have our fingers in all sorts.
Yeah. I mean, it's hard because you're so talented and you can do everything, but does that necessarily mean you should do everything?
Good question.
Yeah. Well, capable women know how to do that. I would just like to know, like, how and when
Yeah.
did this evolve into
Yeah.
something that's larger than yourself? And then we'll get Amelia to come in and
Yeah.
add her commentary.
Yeah, totally. So I spoke a little bit about the first like few years with Do Right, and we kind of had this system of selling with Gather Flora at the San Francisco Flower Mart, also using that website for pre-orders. They ended up opening a stall in the LA Flower Mart, so we also have been sending flowers down to LA.
Wow.
But then there was this kind of big transition that happened when the San Francisco Flower Mart moved locations around last New Year, and Gather Flora was no longer going to be at the new location for the San Francisco Flower Mart. So we really had to think about, okay, what was going to be the best move for us to maximize our access to our florist customers, because we no longer had just this place where we had to really be strategic about that. And we'd heard really good things about Rooted for online shopping from other growers. And so we decided to make the switch over to Rooted which obviously that doesn't solve the sort of question of in-person shopping,
Right.
but I think the site is really easy to use, and also has allowed us, because I knew that with this transition, we were going to have to adopt more of like a delivery route strategy rather than dropping all of our flowers off at one location. And this site, Rooted, has made it really easy to sort of form these delivery routes and communicate with florists and all of that. And I guess maybe this is a good time to talk about the Flower Hub too.
Yeah, I want to
and, like,
back
the
up a little bit, because
place-
when you say we, I'm trying to decide, are you talking about we just Do Right, or we, you and other people? So
yeah,
I don't mean to get ahead of myself.
I use the we for Do Right because I have, 9 employees, including people who have been involved with the farm since the first year. So it feels, even though I definitely am like steering the ship and I come with the most experience, I, funded the start of Do Right and all of that, it still really feels collaborative to me.
That's
And
lovely.
like, like you said, in order for, like, I can't possibly do all of the things that I described. So I require a strong team of people
Well,
to really manage big aspects of the
yeah, and
operation.
it strikes me as that's part of your personal ethos too, is that,
Yeah.
the greater good is doing right and bringing more
Mhm.
people along. Yeah. So what, you knew other farmers in the Santa Cruz area, and you all just started, swapping stories and talking about your pain points, or how did that all come
Mhm.
together?
Yeah, so actually I knew of some of the farms in the hub, but I didn't know them super well. And the main kind of impetus for me was, so the first season of Do Right, it became clear that I needed to have an in-town pickup spot, because one thing about Do Right, it's a very beautiful place, but it's very remote
Okay.
and not friendly to have florists having to come and pick up their orders. And so my driveway became that, but it was such a challenge. Like, I'd put up an umbrella and like hope there was no high winds, and then hope that the florist came at the time frame that they said they would. And I'd be like nervous about the dahlias sitting out in 75 degrees. It just, like, I was like, this is not correct. Like,
And this is your driveway of your residence
of my residence in Santa
in
Cruz.
town.
Yeah,
Yeah.
sorry, I didn't
No,
specify. Yeah.
I think I can picture it. And
Yeah.
and then also you're locked in there and not on the farm, right? That's another limitation if you have to
Well,
be
no,
there.
it was so I had them set up to self-serve their
Got it.
pickups, but I wasn't able to control the climate, or be able to solve any kind of problems. Because another aspect of Do Right is currently we don't have cell service or Wi-Fi. We're literally out in the state park, like in the woods. So, I mean, we have a clearing because we have a field, but it's remote. So
Sounds
basically,
beautiful.
so basically, I was like, I need an in-town cooler location that florists can pick up orders. That is a large expense for one farm to take on. This is a good opportunity to collaborate with other farmers who we might be selling our flowers to the same florists. So first it really centered on just this one, let's collaborate on this one pickup location. And also I was like, with Gather also saw this as a possibility to create a collective. So I like worked with Gather to sort of
Okay.
problem solve this. And then we kind of like worked together and reached out to the other farms. And anyways,
I got it.
honestly, I couldn't even remember the exact timeline, but it came from my need for a pickup spot, me thinking this is a great opportunity. Other people can benefit from this.
Yeah.
Let's
And I
figure
think
this out.
you have some of these farms up on your website in terms of who your fellow Santa Cruz Flower Hub people are. So I'll just scroll here just so people can kind of see the mix. So there's like what, 6 to 8 people, other farms?
It's sort of varied year to year, but yeah, 6 to 8.
Okay.
Is right. When we found out that we were no longer going to have an opportunity to have our flowers available in person, at least in the way that we had, that was when we had to look into what tools were available so that we could transition to really like managing a more direct relationship with our customers, since I knew that we were going to have to be doing direct delivery. And so Rooted has tools on it that do make it easy to communicate directly with the florists that are placing those orders. So it just was more fitting to a situation where we're doing more direct delivery rather than we deliver to one place and then they take care of the distribution.
Right.
It just allowed us to have more control over that, communication around the orders that we were putting together. Does that make sense?
Yeah. And I guess what I'm trying to picture is there a point in time where you get all these orders coming through and you've got the new Santa Cruz Flower Hub platform on Rooted or Front Door or whatever you call it. And then all these orders come in. Do you guys, you being the farms of Santa Cruz Flower Hub, aggregate those orders? And so that you're like, Kelly, when you do a delivery, are you delivering for yourself and other farmers to that florist? And someone else is taking your flowers to another location south of Santa Cruz or whatever. It's like, how do you logistically maneuver all that? And then Amelia, you can decipher it for me.
Yeah. So the way that like the farms look within the Santa Cruz Hub is we are much larger than the other farms. And so just to start a farm of my size, I had to invest in sort of infrastructure to support that scale. So I have a larger delivery van. I have a dedicated delivery driver. I have a bookkeeper. I have enough product to necessitate a walk-in cooler in town for pickup. So it basically, when we started working together as a collective, we just are sharing what we already have and what we've already built, but we still are, it's not like sharing, like we don't get anything from it, because all the farms that are selling through the collective, we pay a percentage of our sales into the hub to support it. So the amount that we're contributing is proportional to our sales. So yeah, so basically, and this was a transition for us because prior to this season, we had these kind of separate things, like Santa Cruz, we were working with the Santa Cruz Flower Hub. So all of the product that was moving locally, and when I talk about, I mean like local, that was all happening through the Santa Cruz Flower Hub. But then we had this separate business up in the Bay Area
Got it.
that
Yeah.
we were doing. And when we switched to using Rooted, we decided, why not just extend the Santa Cruz Flower Hub reach to include the Bay Area?
Got it.
So all of that, basically that in-town cooler spot that I was talking about that we needed, that acts as like a centralized aggregation location. Like Rooted is the virtual aggregation site, and then the warehouse cooler place is the physical space. So everything comes to there, and then our delivery driver does the routes, and we basically bill the hub for that cost.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's
really helpful. No, I mean, it's messy, all this logistics.
Yeah.
I do want to invite Amelia to come in and bring us up to speed with what's happening with Rooted Farmers. Hi, Amelia. Thanks for sitting there patiently while Kelly and I chatted. Was this just business as usual for you? I mean, this is the kind of messy situation you come to, not messy in a bad way, but like, oh, there's a lot of people and a lot of routes and a lot of product. How do we wrap our arms around it and give it some sensibility? And
yeah, I mean, so I think I wouldn't describe what Kelly kind of came with as like super messy. I think it's more just that you're in a time of transition, right? Like you're going from this model that worked for a while and also was not available anymore to them, right?
Yeah.
And so there was this kind of moment of, okay, so what do we do now? We know we need to make some changes. Do we want to dive all in and start a collective or a hub where we're, really tackling the aggregation and logistics of moving product across lots of farms? Do we want to just be focused on our own farm and trying to kind of shore things up for our own operation? How do we want to think about that? And so I think there was this like necessary inflection point that Do Right had to navigate, right? And so I think that's, in that sense, that's not an unusual story for us to kind of come in. I think those transitions often lead to real evaluations of, what have we been doing in the past? What do we want to keep from those systems and practices? And where do we want to be going in the future? And how do we get there? So I guess in that sense, it wasn't super unusual. I think what was a little bit different is that the scale of the operation that Kelly's managing, and also that they were in this sort of really unique market in sort of the Bay Area and in Santa Cruz. The scale is a little bit different than you might see in, kind of a newer geography where you've got folks who are, kind of in this idea forming stage of a collective, where instead of kind of like, hey, let's see if this has legs, you're more replacing the windshield on the 747 while it's in flight, right? Like it's just a bigger operation to tackle.
Kelly's nodding. Yeah. Well,
I'm like, oh man, that's a good analogy.
But I mean, Amelia, what you and your team do, you act as consultants and advisors to groups that are trying to do this, because there's no one size fits all. And you probably had to go through all these choices and possibilities that Kelly and the other farmers had to decide what is going to work for Santa Cruz. And so is this the first full season that you have worked with this model?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. This is the first one. Yeah. And I think it's definitely like brought up questions too about like future possibilities. We're into it, so.
I love it. Yeah. Well, it's I know one of the things I wanted to do is have Amelia show us a little bit of some of the ways that the tool for maybe the dashboard or the back end tool that you have access to, Kelly, without sharing proprietary information, but how do these analytics and the metrics and data that you have access to now, has that vastly changed your thinking as you do crop planning or decide if maybe you need to invite someone else to join the hub? I mean, is that where you started, Amelia, or did you have to
Yeah, I
walk
mean,
them through that?
we, obviously we've known you, Deborah, for a long time now. And
Yeah, I was
we've,
one of the first people you chatted with, and you
yeah,
reminded me it was 2020.
20. It was
But you know what? I think it was
we're
2018
19.
because I was going to
Yeah.
a wedding in New
Yeah.
England, and we met. Yeah.
Yeah, you're right. You're totally right. So it was 2019. And we kind of had this baby of an idea at that point. And, I think one of the great things about the community that we have grown here is all the puns are just so easy, I feel like,
Yeah.
in this space. But one of the great things is that the idea that we started with in 2018, 2019 has now just really become a product of Kelly and like all of the growers and all of the buyers that are on the platform coming and saying, "Hey, I have this idea. What do you think?" And so the analytics are another, like, how we think about data, how we think about insights, and like what type of information is really useful to our, small farms and even to the buyers. All of that is a product of that feedback. And so really kind of this crowdsourced idea of, this is what I need for my farm or for my hub in order to, think about where I might need to bolster hiring resources for next season, or think about how I want to change my crop plan, or, as a hub, where do we feel like we have too much of something, or maybe like too much variety, like too many different types. We were talking, Kelly, about your zinnias, right? Like, do we maybe have too many zinnias that we're growing, and there's opportunity to consolidate there? So trying to answer those questions, because I think when we really zoom out and we look at us, like ourselves, so I'm a farmer, I run a flower farm here in New Hampshire, and a hub here. There are questions that we're asking ourselves every day that we need data in order to answer. I think one of the traps that we fall into as growers is we have anecdotal and even emotional, like, sort of feelings about the things that we're growing. And sometimes those are totally right. And sometimes they are completely wrong. And there's this sort of like glossing over that we can do where we miss really important data and insights about our businesses. And having those at our fingertips can help us to just run a stronger business, a more resilient business, a more profitable business. So that's kind of where the analytics have all come from, is really trying to understand where are our gaps in information and how do we try to fill those in with all of our sales data.
Well, and I think that some people don't do math. I'm one of them, and I just appreciate the fact that you're trying to harness all this data to make it a useful tool for people who are so busy growing flowers. Like Kelly, I want to hear this zinnia story. Like, did you just decide to go deep? I mean, you've probably been deep into zinnias for a long time, and so now all of a sudden they're taking over your life, and you're like, oh my God, how do I rein them in? But I do think that is the difference between having that information, Amelia, is the difference between a farm that's producing beautiful flowers, but maybe not paying the bills, and a farm that's, as Kelly said earlier, providing a livelihood for the farmer. So maybe you could show us an example. Do you want to show something on the screen, and we'll just walk through it?
Yeah, I'm happy to do that.
I mean, and
So
this is like crazy, like daily decisions that have to be made, because week by week the crops change as well on a farm.
they do. And, I think there's sort of like big picture questions that we ask. And there are also kind of like more granular questions that we want to ask. So we're looking at a pretend version of a flower hub here. So trying to keep everybody's information anonymous. We'll just use this pretend hub. And, I think there are kind of these like overarching questions of, how are things going this season? where might we have opportunities to make changes if we want to think about, and so again, the things that we're looking at here, these are automated for all of our members. They're
individual farms and
yeah,
hubs or collectives.
yeah,
Okay.
exactly.
Thank you.
So both the individual producers, so you can join Rooted as an individual farm, you can join as a hub, and everyone has access to these types of data and insights. And so here, I think this is a really fun tool because it allows us to look and see, where did we have meaningful changes over last year? We can kind of see like this year compared with last year. Obviously this year, this hub is up a bit. Last year, they didn't have a great year in July. And so there was this sort of like slump that happened. And so it prompts questions for us to say, well, what did we do differently this July? And how do we want to think about that for next year? Did we have growers who had a different product mix in July? And so we actually had more availability. Did we bring in new buyers? So, it can be that event florists, their sales go down, like their purchase values will go down in July because that's just across the board. It's a
low wedding month. Yeah.
There aren't as many weddings happening. Like July is tough. But brick and mortar florists may not be in that same position. So, did we bring in a different buyer mix in this year? And you've got that kind of comparison data across the board on a whole lot of different, sort of components of your business. But I think to your question, Deborah, about products, this is also really fun. I think one of the neat differences between how Rooted works and a lot of other platforms, and so this was an adjustment for Kelly coming on, right? It was how we think about products and how we speak about our products. And so you're choosing from a drop-down menu of thousands and thousands and thousands of flowers to list your product. And the benefit there is that our team takes care of populating all of the information. So, all the common names, all of the design elements, the genus, the species, the, ethylene sensitivity, cooler sensitivity, all of these different sort of facets of or attributes of a product. And what it allows for is that all of these data are standardized for you across all your growers. And they're also, they're really kind of automated here. There's no thinking that you need to do. So
here you're showing top 10, or I guess you were showing top 10 product. Now, what do you have?
Yeah. So here we're looking at, this period here is basically all of 2025. And then we're looking at the same period from last year. And so we can compare what sold in the previous year and how is it different. So we can see we sold way fewer peonies this year than we did last year. And so that begs questions for us of, why, what happened with our peonies in this year. And I can tell you, I was, I feel like this is a place where we can kind of drill in, and look at, even down to the variety, like where did we maybe have differences in cultivars that sold, and we can sift down through those. So the same is an opportunity in colors where you can kind of look at your color mixes, and all of this is automated. So your point, Deborah, about like, we don't want to be doing math,
right?
We don't want to be building spreadsheets.
I'm just thinking like, Kelly, you could spend all day on this just because it's so fascinating. So you probably you've just scratched the surface in how you're using some of these tools. Maybe the winter is when you're going to get to it a little. That's why you need to take December and January off, right?
Yeah, absolutely. This comes in handy, or I'm very excited to sit down with this for crop planning, because this is super valuable for being able to, well, especially for crop planning on my end, and also for projecting availability for florists for next season, because inevitably people want to know, are reaching out in April talking about their July event and wondering if we'll have chocolate cosmos by then or something, so it's really helpful for us to be able to get this kind of snapshot of what we had, what was available during different times of year. And Yeah.
Oh, I love it. I love it. And I've seen the demos before, but I feel like they keep getting more refined, Amelia. You keep adding more facets. Um, Based on the fact that you are a flower farmer, but also, as you said, customers are asking specific questions. So, are there questions that the collectives and hubs need to know that are different than, say, an individual flower farmer? Has that prompted you to change some of these tools?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think so there are a few different layers of questions that I think can be different. So often with hubs, there is an in-person market, and so Rooted does have a point of sale tool for those folks who do manage in-person markets and have a register, and people are checking out. And so one of the questions for them is, what is selling as a pre-order, and then what's going on the market floor? What's getting added into orders after the fact, right? What's happening, what's moving at point of sale, and which growers are selling at point of sale, which growers are selling in markets, and what are the products that they're selling. So there are kind of different lenses, I guess, that you would want to
Sure.
view your data to
Yeah.
really kind of understand, when are people ordering? What are the times of days that people are ordering? What does my split look like from wholesale buyers to retail buyers? And how am I thinking about moving product to each of those channels? Because, they might be buying different things. And I think even, as we think about some of our customers, our grocery buyers always want the really bright, vibrant colors, whereas our wedding designers might want more in sort of the muted tones, and blush and white. And those don't move quite as well in grocery store to retail customers. So you have these kind of ways of dissecting the data to look and see, like, okay, if I want to lean in to my retail buyers,
Yeah.
what are they buying and what might I need to grow more of?
Yeah. It's a really good point, because I think a lot of people could tell you that what they think it is, and the anecdotal gut feeling, but
Yeah.
the numbers don't lie. And so, gosh, it's a game changer if you can actually become fluent in this tool and really know what to ask it. I mean, Kelly, it's just going to be so interesting to see, maybe
Yeah.
right when you're going into planning for 2026, what are some of the questions you think you're going to be asking this data to tell you, as the head of the collective, of the hub?
Yeah, good question. I wrote some notes, like, yeah, for the hub, I don't have like a good answer for that,
You
of like
probably have to
what.
look at how the year went before you know what
Well,
questions to
yeah,
ask,
because
right?
my thinking, I can think a lot about how I will use the data for do right for my farm and crop planning for my farm. But I think for the hub, I need to like spend some time with it. Like,
So like often in the
mm,
winter months, and this is Kelly's
mm,
first year, right?
Yeah.
So it's still
mm,
very much in the like drinking from a fire hydrant, not even a
mm,
hose. Like drinking
mm,
from a fire hydrant year is that first
mm,
year when you're really kind of like formalizing and building your hub.
mm,
But typically it's used in thinking about, okay, do we want to add more growers this
mm,
winter? And if
mm,
we do, what kinds of questions do we need to be asking them? And a lot of that can revolve around the crops that they have.
Sure.
So we talked about
mm,
how Kelly has tons of zinnias and
mm,
lots of different cultivars of zinnias.
mm,
Maybe your next grower doesn't need to have zinnias, and you actually
mm,
need to differentiate into other crops and thinking
mm,
about, kind of bringing in more woodies, or bringing in kind of something that is
mm.
not currently met.
Yeah, something you don't have
Yeah,
enough of, or that
yeah,
florists are asking for. No, that makes a lot
yeah.
of sense. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, I mean, even, like, something that's coming to mind for us, we sort of have to think about the hub cash flow in a similar way that we think about my own farm, where we're kind of hoarding money over our main growing season so that we can pay some of the set expenses that continue throughout the winter. But, like, what if we had a grower who really filled in that kind of, like, winter gap, and that they had enough quantity that the hub itself was producing the money it needed while it was happening? What if that continued to happen throughout the
Sure.
winter? Then that might also affect, maybe we could reduce the margin so we can all be making more money off of what we're producing. Like, what the effects of that would be big.
Yeah. Well, it's exciting.
Mhm.
I wish you a wonderful winter so you can have a little downtime and
Mhm.
then be ready for next year.
Mhm.
Um, so now I guess the biggest issue is um, making sure that the farms feel that they had a good season and that this is worth the investment for them, because
Mhm.
it's, there is a cost to coming together as a hub and
Mhm.
selling collectively, and then obviously investing in a platform like Rooted. There's a cost, but I think it pays for itself. I'm sure Amelia
Mhm.
would say that, but
Mhm.
it's different than having staff. And you also have staff, right? You have a hub
Mhm.
manager, or
Yeah, we have someone who does like the kind of operational management. So
Mhm.
is like lit everything from sorting orders to answering florists' email who are emailing the hub directly, or setting up our delivery driver with their manifest for the
Yeah,
day, that kind of
yeah,
stuff. So we have someone
yeah.
that does the weekly operations. Yeah.
Well, that's very fun.
Hmm.
I just visited um, the little farm on Olga Road from Orcas Island a couple months
Hmm.
ago, and the owner Carol Wetzel said, "Hey, I've got to go to Santa Cruz
Oh
for my
yeah.
daughter's wedding, and I don't know how to get it. I don't know how to get local flowers." And I'm like, "Well, let me tell you who to talk to." So I hope that those sort of one-off destination wedding people are finding Santa
Hmm.
Cruz Flower Hub too, because that you
Hmm.
sounds like you heard from her.
Yeah, we have an order from her. I was like, who is this person? Like, I have no idea where you come from.
I said,
I
tell
did
them,
notice that.
yeah, tell them I sent you. I love it. That's really
Cool.
great. Well,
Yeah.
listen, before we wrap up, there's a couple resources we want to mention. And first of all, Amelia, I didn't show your new and improved homepage. So I want to have you talk a little bit about what's happening with Rooted Farmers, because you've had a little bit of a transition in a good way. You're growing. You talk about weird puns, but this is a new homepage, a kind of cute little new logo with a I guess a cow and a flower. So tell us what happened with what are you guys doing?
Yeah, we did get a little bit of a facelift here. We updated our branding and got a new fun logo. Our logo now has a cow named Daisy, and she's holding a little flower in her tail.
Cute.
And we've
Yeah.
had really positive feedback. People love it, and they love Daisy. And it all kind of came from, so we were talking a little bit about some of the feedback that we get from our growers. And so we had been approached by some of our farms who said, "Hey, Rooted is awesome for our flowers, but also we grow other things. We grow food, we raise meat, we have eggs. Like, we need to sell all this other stuff for our farm on the platform. How do we
Mm,
do that?"
mm.
And so it pushed us to apply for some grants through the USDA. And so we expanded into food, which we've been working on for several years now, but launched out publicly this year. And with that, we kind of felt like we had to do a little bit of an update on our branding.
Oh, for
So
sure. I
that's
mean, it's a whole new population of, yes, there are people who are growing flowers and food, and they know, if
Yep.
they're already rooted farmers, they know how great it is to use this tool. But you're probably having new customers who've maybe never used this type of
Yeah.
platform before. Oh, I see you've got the list here: eggs and dairy,
Yep.
meat, produce. Okay, so
Yep.
that's kind of fun. Congratulations on
Yeah.
that.
So
I
we're
mean,
working with flower hubs and food hubs now, and individual producers across the board. And it's been a really fun shift for us. And I think it also just has driven even more conversation around, what do we need as growers for analytics, and
yeah,
what can be useful across lots of populations.
absolutely. I 100% support that, because back to sustainability. We always talk about that, but I always love to advocate for sustaining the farmer,
Yeah.
Mhm.
or why bother with any of this? So
Right.
you're empowering people to sell their product to a broader audience. If you're thinking about is this right for you? We're going to share a resource that Rooted Farmers has written that we're going to post as well. Kind of like a checklist, 5 W's of starting a hub.
Yep.
And that'll be kind of a self-test. I mean, this is the time of year when people are starting to say, oh, I just got invited to go to meet a group of farmers in Eastern Washington who are thinking about doing that. And
Yep.
I'll share this with them.
Yeah, it's a great time of year to be kind of exploring that. I think you're going into sort of these quieter months and maybe have some more brain space.
We've been partners with Rooted Farmers for a long time. We're so grateful that Rooted is well, first of all, Amelia, you and your farm are members, longtime members of Slow Flowers, but you you often offer a promo code to our community, and so we'll share this also in the show notes at slowflowerspodcast.com. But it's a new coupon code. It's good for the next year called It's Slow Flowers 26, all one word. 26 is the numbers, and I'll share that. It will give you $75 off a individual farm plan, essentials or pro. So this is for individual farms who maybe haven't kicked the tires yet and figured out whether they want to sell on your platform. Is that right?
Yeah, I think it might be for new farms or existing farms. So I think it could work across all of your members.
Yeah. I guess it's 2 tiers, essential or pro. So we'll put the language in the notes, and then people can reach out to you if they have other questions.
Yeah. That sounds
Awesome. Good. All right. Anything else we want to? Well, first of all, Kelly has generously shared some great farm photos of where she grows, and it makes me want to come visit, even though I didn't realize it was so off grid. Kelly, how far is it from where you live?
It's about 40 minutes first thing in the morning when there's no traffic, and then becomes, up to an hour and 15 or so, like coming home at the end of the day.
Wow. Yeah. Well,
yeah.
I mean, access to land is one of the biggest issues, and that's where you found your land, right?
Yeah. Yeah. It's
beautiful. But while you're there, you just you're in a beautiful place. So I love that you shared those photos, and we'll have all the resources, including this post that Amelia and I just discussed, and the promo code. And I just encourage people to reach out to the experts at Rooted Farmers if you've got questions, because I certainly don't. Happy to just create a forum to have this conversation today. Is there anything else you two want to add before we wrap up? We've gone over our planned time, but I think it was all very valuable.
I guess I just want to shout out my crew, and
for
Naomi,
sure,
Julia, Teresa, Ben, Bean, Rosa, Primitivo, Claire, Asa, anyways, all of my amazing team, and Edith Polito, who is does the managing for the Santa Cruz Flower Hub, all the other hub farms. I don't know, just it's a lot, but I appreciate you all. Also, thank you to you two for hosting this and all that you're doing to support, flower farmers and this more sort of sustainable flower industry. So
and all those people you mentioned are pictured on your Do Right Flower Farm website, which I love. And so now you're putting some names to faces, and check them all out. Anything else, Amelia, that you want to add?
No, I think you covered it. I think it's been really fun working with Kelly. We had some early conversations of, are you sure you want to do this? And it's been so fun to sort of see how everything has panned out for you.
Yeah, it's got to be really gratifying to know that your mission is being used to support other farms and other farmers. So congratulations.
Sure.
Great. Well, we'll put this all in the show notes, and look forward to providing this replay video for people who are maybe listening to this on the podcast. Please know you can go over to Slow Flowers show on our YouTube channel and see the faces and see the websites and see that digital tool or the platform that Amelia walked people through, because it's really hard to hear it and not see it. So that's why we've added video. So thank you both so much, and hopefully we'll talk really soon. Take care.
Thank you.
Thank you.